Imagine something truly terrifying. Imagine you're the finest soldier America has ever forged. You carry the most advanced weapons on Earth. Above you, B-52s own the sky. You are trained to kill efficiently, decisively, without hesitation. You step into the jungle believing nothing here can match your dot, and then you realize something is watching you. Not the enemy, your allies. We called ourselves MACV-SOG. We believed we were ghosts. Men without footprints. Warriors who slipped across borders that officially did not exist. Laos, Cambodia, the DMZ. Places where maps lied and mistakes were paid for in blood and silence. We wore their reputation proudly. Like a medal, no one was allowed to see dot, and we met the Australians, and everything we believed about. Invisibility collapsed. They didn't carry radios. They didn't wear helmets. They barely spoke. They moved like drifting smoke and killed like something the jungle itself had produced. I watched a 5-man Australian SAS team pass straight through a North Vietnamese army camp without a single head turning. I saw them neutralize a tunnel complex using nothing but a flashlight and a knife. I saw an entire region go silent without a single bullet fired. That was the lesson that shattered American confidence in Vietnam. It doesn't matter how big your gun is. If the enemy never knows you're there, what was their secret? What doctrine turned the SAS into the most feared unit in Southeast Asia? And why did battle-hardened American veterans quietly beg to learn from them? The answer wasn't loud. It was terrifyingly quiet. The 4th hour of that patrol was the moment the jungle put us on trial. The heat pressed down like a physical weight. Leaves sweated. Sound felt muffled, as if the world had wrapped itself in cotton. One moment the Australians were ahead of us, visible through the green. The next moment nothing. No movement. No sound. Just jungle. Our breathing suddenly felt obscene. Too loud. Too human. Losing sight of allied bodies deep in hostile terrain isn't a minor problem. It's the opening scene of a tragedy. Eyes swept the brush. Weapons tracked shadows. The mind started inventing disasters faster than hands could react. But there was nothing to see. No snapped twig. No bent grass. No disturbed vine. The jungle looked untouched. And that's what made it horrifying. Fear for trained men doesn't scream. It tightens. It knots the stomach and sharpens the mind until every second feels heavy. But humiliation was still waiting for us at the rendezvous. When we arrived, expecting chaos or confusion, we instead found 5 Australian silhouettes already dug in, already positioned, already watching us approach. They weren't surprised. They weren't rushed. They were waiting. In that moment. The word ghosts stopped belonging to us. Hours earlier. We would have laughed at the idea that anyone could out-stealth MACV-SOG. We ran deep recon where American footprints weren't supposed to exist. 6-man teams. Suppressed weapons. Perfect spacing. Perfect drills. People called us shadows, and we believed it. The mission briefing sounded insultingly simple. Joint operation with an Australian SAS patrol. Link up outside Da Nang. Move into contested jungle. We expected equals. What we got felt like judgment. 5 men arrived quietly. No chatter. No rank on display. No shine. Their gear looked almost primitive. No visible radios. No excess equipment. One nodded once, then turned away to check his canteen. It wasn't disrespect. It was discipline. So complete, it felt like an accusation. Silence clung to them. Our side checked gear, whispered confirmations, lived inside controlled noise. Their side felt sealed, like the mission had already started in their heads, and no one was allowed to interrupt it. By dawn, we entered the jungle. Our team moved by doctrine spacing. Scanning, halts every 30 minutes for bearings and radio bursts. Procedures gave us confidence. Rhythm made us feel safe. The Australians didn't stop when we stopped. They flowed forward, always ahead, always just out of sight. Their pace wasn't fast, it was inevitable. Like water finding its way downhill. Watching them felt like watching something natural rather than trained. And then came the moment we realized something was wrong. 4 hours in, they vanished, not faded. Not lagged, gone, no trace. No sign. The absence itself felt engineered. We searched for marks because we believed marks always exist. They didn't dot at the rendezvous. The verdict waited. 5 Australians, settled, covering arcs. Calm as statues. They hadn't beaten us by speed. They'd beaten us by erasing themselves. That realization hurt more than any firefight. On paper, MACV-SOG were equals. In reality, our philosophies couldn't have been further apart. We carried over 60 pounds of gear radios, batteries, ammo, claymores, contingencies stacked on contingencies. Preparedness felt like professionalism. They carried less, not because they lacked resources, but because they rejected excess. Less weight, less friction, less noise. We treated silence as a behavior. Treated silence as an identity, not our doctrine. Assumed rescue could be called. There's assumed rescue should never be needed. That difference attacked. Something sacred to American doctrine. Communications. Radios were our lifeline. Control came from connection. The Australians moved without chatter, without confirmation, without hesitation. One man froze, everyone froze. No ripple. No delay. It worked. And the worst thought crept in. Maybe. Our procedures were also our signature. The jungle doesn't care about reputation. It records noise, scent, and movement, and punishes arrogance. Then came the leaf. One leaf flipped to its darker underside. Compressed moss. Mud smoothed by weight. The Australian patrol leader stopped instantly. He wasn't guessing. He was reading. 2 enemy bodies. Heavy load. Recent movement. 200 meters later. The proof waited. Crushed grass, fresh refuse. Human paws etched lightly into earth. He didn't celebrate. He moved on. That hurt more than being wrong. Observation followed. Americans chose distance. Australians chose intimacy. They melted inches from the enemy trail. They became terrain. Enemy runners passed close enough to hear breath. Nothing moved. When they withdrew, they erased themselves using roots, rocks, water. No trace remained. Even we couldn't find their hides afterward. Then night fell. A hostile village blocked our route. American doctrine offered 2 choices: detour or destroy. The Australians chose neither. They removed their boots. Bare feet read the ground. A dog stirred. Dried meat silenced suspicion. Fear dissolved before it could become sound. Near the village elder's hut, they left a mark. Not damage, a message. We were here. We could touch you. We chose not to. That kind of fear lasts longer than gunfire. Then came the tunnel. Americans reached for explosives. Australian reached for a flashlight. Then turned it off. He entered blind. Minutes passed like punishment. When he emerged, clay, covered, and calm, he held up 3 fingers. 3 enemies gone. No sound. Evidence. That's when pride started to die. Quietly. We stripped gear. Taped straps. Muted metal. Treated noise like missing money. The lesson was clear. Risk doesn't disappear because you carry more. It disappears because you leave less behind. The jungle had been watching us the entire time, and the Australians had been invisible enough to let it forget them entirely.